Hello everyone, good evening. The 2-month-old political ceasefire over the COVID pandemic has been blown up in the two worst hit cities in the country, that is Mumbai and Delhi. In Delhi, the BJP is hammering the Aam Aadmi Party, accusing them of underreporting COVID deaths. In Mumbai, the BJP was out on the streets today wearing black face masks and protesting against Uddhav Thackeray for what they call his tepid response to the pandemic. Politics in the times of a pandemic, that is what we are looking at here on the show. But before we start, let me go straight across to Sanjay Jha, someone all of you know very well. He's spokesperson of the Congress party, who today has tested positive for COVID-19 and put that information up on his Twitter handle. Sanjay, thank you very much. First up, how are you feeling and what were your symptoms?
Thank you very much. The reason why I decided that I will speak on your program, Shreya, is because I feel that it is my responsibility to do so. And let me tell you that I take all necessary precautions, wearing a mask, sanitizing my hand, not standing at close proximity to anybody. If one went for grocery shopping, one went there, bought what wanted, what one had to purchase and left as soon as possible, and then came back home and went through the usual protocol of, kind of sanitation. So, what this tells you really, I mean, I was very astonished, very surprised that I tested positive. And I think the reason behind that is probably that it is such an airborne disease that while we may protect our mouths and our noses, your eyes are a gateway to the coronavirus as well. And, you can't be wearing dark layers everywhere you go. So, I think we are all very vulnerable. And, I have tried very hard to think as to where I could have possibly got the infection. But the only thing I take away is that we are all very, very susceptible. And you have to be not just careful, you have to be paranoid about it.
Sanjay, I'm glad that you're coming out and talking about it. Could you tell us briefly what your symptoms were? Because, something like a fever or something like a headache is pretty normal. You could get a fever and it doesn't necessarily mean it could be COVID. You could be someone who gets migraine, fairly regularly.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't think, too much about having a headache. How did you figure out that this could possibly be COVID?
Well, frankly, I did not. My doctor did. You see, I woke up with a very mild, almost a 99-degree fever on Sunday morning. And as you rightly said, I mean, these things happen once in a while, for me, because I normally get that kind of fever if I have a terrible cold, which I didn't have at all. So I couldn't fathom as to why was there a fever in the body. So my first advice to anybody who's watching your program, Shreya, is if people are not able to quickly localize as to why they may potentially have a fever, then get yourself tested. I also noticed that, my sense of smell was a little off the curve. So, like you enjoy your tea or you're having a very sumptuous breakfast and you're not able to smell the food as you normally would. And these are symptoms of the fact that there is something not right. Now, I didn't have any of these sore throat and splitting headache and chest congestion, nothing of the kind. So these were very mild, shall we say, symptoms. And my doctor said that, listen, I don't want to take a chance because I see COVID in the air. He said, everyone I'm actually today inspecting or supervising or looking after is a victim of COVID. And that tells me that the regular virus or the influenza is not in the air. Everything has now become COVID. So I think we need to be extremely alert to this reality.
Sanjay, it's been 2 months and there is a certain fatigue that has set in. Like, for example, I'm not washing my hands as many times as I was a month ago. And that is something that a lot of people across my office at least are reporting. Do you feel you could have let your guard down a bit? Looking back, have you been able to figure out where you could have possibly contracted it?
I do believe that, human beings are made in a way where they say that nothing can happen to me. We can all open our calculator and say, there are only 100,000 cases in India, then divided by 135 crore population. And you say the probability of it happening is like 0.0000x. So people say, well, it's not going to happen to me. And so I think we all are very fatalistic by nature. But you're absolutely right. You can become casual. You can become, sometimes you may just go down and park your car in another place and you're not wearing your mask. And since it is airborne, I'll give you the example where I suspect I may have probably got it. You're taking a short walk, all right? And the road may be totally empty because nobody's out on the roads anyway. There are very few people out there. Now, you may find the road empty and you're doing a walk, and you may decide you're wearing a mask. You may just try to lower it because there's nobody there and you think it's safe. What if somebody had been there 10 minutes earlier, was COVID infected, had probably coughed into the air because they were still airborne? And you may have then sniffed it in because you lowered your mask, or it came in through your eyes. So I can tell you one thing, that until the vaccine comes, the hard truth is we'll have to live an extremely alert and a paranoid life. It's going to be stressful. It's going to be very challenging. And Shreya, you mentioned, I read stories of how tough it is in the media today for people, because you all have to work with technicians and reporters and so many people. It's not easy. And I would only recommend to you and to your entire team at CNN News 18, be very careful. Don't take anything for granted. It's not that this is, people don't recover and all that. That's different. But to put yourself through the entire predicament, if you can avoid it, why not?
My last question to you is a political one. The Maharashtra BJP has been out on the streets today protesting against what they are calling the mishandling of the COVID crisis by the Maharashtra government. And if you look at the numbers, Maharashtra has done pretty badly. 30% of the country's total cases are coming from Maharashtra. You live in Mumbai. You know just how badly Mumbai is doing. What will your response be to that?
Well, I can tell you that the reason why Mumbai is probably in the hotspot area it is in, are on account of two real factors. It was always vulnerable because of the big international destination, and I think a lot of the people coming from abroad at the initial stage triggered it. Then you have the clusters that we live in Mumbai. I told that to somebody that 42% of Mumbai lives in slums, and the balance 58% lives in very congested skyscrapers. So even if the very affluent and the rich live in multiple, high-rise, penthouses, whether it's in Worli or Malabar Hill or Colaba or Cup Parade, the fact is that everybody is extremely compressed. And, there's an average size of a family could be 5 living in a very small apartment in Dharavi. Look at what's happening in Dharavi. Hard to control. It's extremely physically impossible to manage. So I'm not trying to justify it. After all, now I'm a victim of it. So how can I justify that? But I would like to say that we have a problem in terms of creating what you call as the public health infrastructure. But I found the BMC, at least in my case, I thought were very proactive. But I do agree with you that there is a need for a lot to be done. But, over the last, since yesterday, 80% of the hospital beds in private hospitals have been given to COVID patients, for those who need hospitalization, for example. And I think there's hope. I think we'll fight this back. People who are, I'm going to be in home quarantine for the next 10 days, 10 days probably. And because, my symptoms are lesser, so, I'll have to kind of take my medication and, hydrate my body and rest here. But those people who are probably having a more aggressive symptom may even need to be in hospital. But, the facilities are now definitely there. And I do hope, and I do believe, I think one thing that we should not criticize the current government for is not being responsive. Every time they have been challenged or they have been told this has not worked, Mr. Thackeray's government has responded very well. So I would request the BJP with folded hands, wrong time to do politics. Let's work collectively together.
All right, Sanjay, we'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much for joining us here on the show. And I hope you feel better soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.